It took me a while to kind of really get anything going. So I was 6 months in before I really found someone ready to go that was willing to work with me, who was green as they come. And I sold that house. I had a $3,000 check. I quit my job, went full-time into real estate. I sold 17 houses my first year.
Welcome to Dig's Influencer Podcast, the Titans of Real Estate. The show that provides direct access to the real estate industry's top movers and shakers as they share invaluable insight on how to best navigate and succeed in any market. I'm your host, Warren Dow, founder and CEO of M3 Media and publisher of Digs Magazine. In this episode, Ed Kaminsky. Thank you to our show sponsor, Bow Concept. So allow me to introduce our distinguished guest, Ed Kaminsky, to Dig Studio. Welcome, Ed.
Thanks, Warren. Glad to be here.
So, Ed, you had a ranking, a very impressive ranking for 2018. You were ranked number 85, top teams by transaction volume by Real Trends, and you did a whopping $198 million in volume.
Yeah, we did about 200 million in volume last year, which I guess puts us there. And we're excited to have helped that many people get their home sold or find new homes. But I also see there's 84 people ahead of me that I need to be just increasing what we do to see if we can climb that ladder even further.
And you've been on that list for quite some time. You've been in the top 100 for...
Yeah, we've been on that top list. You know, it used to be on the top individual list. We've moved it to the team list because I think anybody doing that kind of volume really has some sort of team. So I have to give credit to my team who help us achieve that as well.
So let's give the audience a little bit some of your backstory, starting with, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. I was there until I was 18 years old. But I went... grew up in a small town, pretty measly beginnings, to be honest with you, and always looked at what other great people in this world were doing and thought I should be a part of that group.
So what were some of your interests when you were in your youth or a young adult?
Honestly, because I didn't have anything, I was always trying to figure out how to get something, right? So from a young age, I think the first thing I ever sold was some stickers I found in a dumpster. They threw out a whole brand new box of stickers. And I was like, what a waste. I could sell these things. So I took the box home on my bike, and they said KIB on it. I'll never forget it. It was like an oval red sticker and said KIB, and below it said cash is best. So I thought, maybe they misspelled it. It should have been CIB or whatever, and that's why they threw them out. Nonetheless, I started selling them for a nickel a piece in school until I got yelled at by the teacher. But honestly, within 90 days of picking up that box, I started seeing stickers all over the state of Ohio on the back of cars, and I knew I was onto something.
Yeah, that's cool.
That was at 7 years old.
So you were quite enterprising even back then. So what did you do before you got into real estate? Like some of the things you did, jobs and...
I had the usual teenager jobs of mowing lawns and working at a fast food restaurant and working at a grocery store, just to get some extra money as a kid growing up, and then enough to actually pay for myself to get through really what was a trade school. I got into the jewelry business. So I wanted to get out to California where the school was. So I had to raise enough money as a kid to do it because my parents weren't able to provide. And I did that. And I came out to California, discovered Santa Monica, and went to school, got my degree in gemology, and went into the jewelry industry for the beginning of my career. And I actually went to Houston for a couple of years after I graduated because my father was there at the time. And so I, kind of had my first real job in Houston as an adult, but learned I liked California better. And after a couple of years, literally just got in my car, sent out a couple hundred resumes. I picked up, back then we used phone books, got those at the library. So I figured out where do I find all the jewelry stores in California? They didn't have the internet. So I just mailed out hundreds of resumes to California, then got in my car and drove out, and then went and interviewed with a bunch of places and got a job. So that's how I ended up in California at a pretty young age with a 3-month-old child in tow.
Nice. So speaking of phone books, it's funny. The phone book was my best friend back in the day. I sold insurance as my first job. And literally, it's true what they say about insurance. They say, here's your desk, here's a pen, here's a phone book, and there's
Call
the phone.
some people, yeah.
And literally, okay. And you dial and you it's rough, but it's funny how but similar to sort of my story, I'm sure. Like what impact or what did you learn from the jewelry side of things that you were able to translate or take with you?
There was no question. Jewelry. Really, what I was involved in there was understanding sales and customer service. That was really the biggest thing I learned in that industry, other than how to know if it's a diamond or not a diamond and how valuable it is. But I was learning how to succeed in business. I saw the company I was with grow very quickly and then go into bankruptcy at some point, right? So I saw how growing pains can affect a business. So I looked at a lot of different things. I was always paying attention to ownership and management and trying to understand how things were done. And then, they promoted me to management at a very young age. I was managing people twice my age. And one of those employees was going to the real estate course. And I still really honestly wasn't making a ton of money. I was working a lot of hours. I was working retail. Retail stores close at 9:00. If you're in the jewelry business, you got to put it all away at 9:00, which means it takes you another 20 or 30 minutes. And you're not out of there till 9:30. So to me, it shaped me, wrong or right, to believe the workday ends at 9 p.m., where everyone else's trains, it ends at 5. So when I switched into real estate, which I did, I always noticed around 6 o'clock, everyone was leaving. Where are they going?
You had an advantage day one.
There's 3 more hours left in the day. So I just grinded out for another 3 hours on the phone, making calls and trying to make things happen. And I picked up that habit, good or bad. But I find that, to succeed for me, it's not what I do during the first 8 hours, what I do with the extra 2 or 3 hours after that elevates me to the ability to provide more service to my clients, find more clients, hone my skills, everything else that I need to do, I'm doing with those extra time.
So let me take you back real quick. So why did you get into real estate? What was the sort of the turning point that you said, was it just sort of, I'm going to try this, or was it?
Well, no, honestly, I got my real estate license because I wanted to know about real estate. It wasn't to get a job in it, but what I found interesting, which was the opposite of phone book situation, was I kept getting letters in the mail, people offering me jobs. And I didn't even send out any resumes. What the heck's going on here? So I literally just started talking to all these people who are offering me jobs. And I realized, you learn about this business when you're new, is they weren't offering you a job as much as they were asking you to give them money to work for them. This was their opportunity to grow their company. And
much like the insurance business that I was in.
I guess. So to get into the real estate business, you have to spend money. You have to spend money to be at the office. You have to spend money to market. You have to spend. And so the bottom line was I was going to try it out. And I started, in jewelry, I was either working 9 to 5 or I was working 12 to 9 in those shifts. So I would take those extra 3 hours. If I was on the 9 to 5 shift, I'd go grab dinner and I'd work from 6 to 9 in real estate. And if I was on the 1 to 9 shift is what it was, I'd go in the real estate office at 9 and work till noon, take a lunch break and go in. And so I was working in these different 3-hour increments and then my days off in real estate, trying to figure it out, learn what it was. And I sold a house one day.
So tell me about that first sale.
I won't forget it, because when I got in the business, like your insurance phone book story, I said, I didn't really understand real estate. So I said, okay, I'm here, I'm day one. I'm sitting in the real estate office. It was on PCH and Avenue E down in South Redondo Beach. And I remember sitting there saying, okay, I'm ready. Where's the customers? I'm like waiting for them to walk in the door. Like, I'm ready to go. Let's
This
go.
is like
I'm
a
gonna sell
retail,
house.
right? This is retail. Where are the buyers?
Where are they? So the manager comes over. He goes, Ed, what are you doing? I said, I'm waiting. Waiting for what? My customers. He goes, there are no customers. You got to go get them yourself. I go, what are you talking about? So he said, you got to go out and knock doors. So I went and knocked doors, and, I chose Redondo Beach as a place to knock. And it took me a while to kind of really get anything going. But I'll never forget, I walked by this one house, and I walked past it because it didn't have a driveway. It didn't have a sidewalk. It was just like this little miniature house in the back of the lot. And it just looked a little scary, to be honest with you. So I skipped it. But then I started thinking, why did I skip it? Should I skip it? And I went back, and I knocked on the door, and a young woman answers the door and said, hi, I'm Ed with Century 21, where I was at the time. I said, do you want to sell your house? She goes, oh, you want to talk to my husband? Here. And she hands me a phone, hands me her phone. I go, hello? And I was used to cold calling anyway, so I was pretty comfortable on the phone. Says, Ed with Century 21, do you want to sell your house? He says, yeah, I do. Oh, good.
You're like, this is easy. 1 for 1, a diamond in the rough.
It wasn't 1 for 1.
Okay.
That was 6 months of pounding the pavement before I sold my first house. So I was 6 months in before I really found someone ready to go that was willing to work with me, who was green as they come. And I sold that house. And as soon as I closed it, which at the time I thought was a big closing, I got $3,000.
What was the price, the home price?
200.
200,000?
190.
Yeah.
190.
So you got a check for 3,000.
Yeah, 6 came to the brokerage. I got half, which was $3,000. And I had a $3,000 check. It was in December. And in the jewelry business, December was busy because of the holidays. And I got another $3,000 check for commission. So I had $6,000 to my name. I said, I could live for 6 months on this. So I quit my job, went full-time into real estate. And that first full year, which was 2000, it was 1988, I sold 17 houses my first year, which was maybe triple
Impressive.
The income what I made in the jewelry business. And it was on my way. I got a taste of it. I had some success. But I worked my butt off, I think, harder than anybody in that office. And I think I still continue with those same habits today.
That's great. So that was your first sale, right? 190, 200. What was your biggest sale? What's your biggest sale?
Well, I sold a home
career?
last week for $17 million. I represented both sides. So that was, I guess it's like for most people, a $34 million sale. So that was pretty good.
That's nice.
Yeah.
And what was that? Was that your biggest commission check? Your single biggest commission check, you think?
I launched a company years ago called Premier Estates Auction Company, where we use the auction process to sell very unique homes across the globe. And we've had some really big sales within that company that have been significant and very large commission checks, split amongst the team and the company. So I would say it's, equivalent to some of those deals we have done there.
So that brings me to a point, like your business model has evolved, going from the C21, and like now you've got a very unique model that you've built with, you talk about Premier, but you have Sports Star Relocation. You've got a group now, a team. You represent different segments and different,
We do. We have evolved into a really dynamic, team of highly talented experts that are highly effective at two things. Our customers want two things, Warren. One, they want to find their dream home. They want to know they're paying the right price, and they want to find things that maybe others can't. And we have to have the skill sets and ability to do that, right? And so being able to dig out inventory that's not on the market is important to them. Guiding them on whether it's a good value, a good location, can they sell it later down the road, is important to them. So that becomes critical. But probably more importantly is our seller clients where they've got unique properties, or they can have the run-of-the-mill property. It really doesn't matter. We still cover, very affordable properties that are in today's market to $500,000 to, $17 million beachfront homes and everything in between. And they all want the same thing. They want as much money as they can get. They want as little headaches as possible.
I can finish the third. No, go ahead.
And they want to know that it's going to happen within a reasonable time frame.
Yeah. Less time, less stress, more money.
And
rule of thirds.
Yeah. And just because you have a real estate license doesn't mean it's going to happen. It's no different than a driver's license, to be honest with you. If you give a 16-year-old a driver's license who's had 4 hours of driving experience, they're not as good as a race car driver who's been racing cars for 18 years. They still have a driver's license, but there's a big difference when it comes from the skill sets that exist between us as brokers.
Let me ask you this. I want to take you back to C21 real quick again, because didn't Raju work there with you as well at that time?
He did, yeah. He was a big inspiration for me. When I started, he was there. He had a couple years on me, and we worked together for a lot of years.
So the reason I bring this up is because, as you know, the DIGS model is all built around the 80-20 rule, right? 20% of the agents in this case do 80% of the business.
Right.
And hyper-local luxury, it might be 85-15 or 90-10.
Correct.
So we focus on the 10, the 15 to partner with. And it sounds like, or I should ask you, did you find that when you started and you were young and like, okay, who are the players? Who are the 10? I want to hang with those guys to kind of try to get as much information or learn or.
You know what? I recognized pretty quickly who the leaders were. And honestly, I became one of them pretty quickly in the realm of volume of sales. But there were people I always looked up to that had a head start. And you learn from them, you see what they're doing. But I also look beyond our walls of the South Bay bubble, because there's a lot of great, successful people in this industry that you can learn from. Both locally here, there's a lot of great agents in the South Bay that everybody does their business a little bit differently. And I think some of them have really great skills. And I pay attention. And there's a lot of agents outside of our marketplace that have incredible skills in a lot of different ways, from the way they, service their clients, get the job done, build their business. And so I'm constantly seeking out the leaders in the real estate business, in the business world, and trying to figure out what happens. I'm in what's called a mastermind group, and we made it one of our tasks this month to interview somebody that is outside of the real estate industry that has had immense success. And we tried to put a minimum net worth value of them of having $250 million net worth or higher to include them on the interview list. And so you learn such great things about so many different ways of life and business and everything else from people.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's awesome. So who did you end up interviewing? Or have you interviewed this person yet?
Yeah. I can't say I know their net worth, so I don't want to say that. But I interviewed Bill Bloomfield, and he had a lot of different successes in coin-operated laundry services to real estate to today his passion is politics. So a very interesting perspective. But here's what I found the congruency amongst most of these leaders in business is because my focus of the conversation was, what do we do to make sure our business is surviving or growing or being disrupted or anything else? And there was no question, it was amongst every single one said the same thing. It's your people. It's the people you hire. It's the people you work with. It's the strength and the quality of the people that you you put in your workplace that is going to decide whether you're going to grow or you're not going to grow. It's number one by far. It was hands down an equal answer across all industries.
Yeah, I'm a voracious reader of, business books and marketing leaders, and I totally understand that point.
I heard a great line. It was some of the most successful people that have built amazing things did not come from their own industry, right? So if you look at Elon Musk, who built the Tesla, he didn't come from Ford or Chevy or any of these, right? And so it was very interesting that the greatest people in business didn't come from that business. And the other thing I found very interesting was trying to find out from your customer base what's important is not always the right answer, as stated by Mr. Ford, who stated, if I asked the people of my time what they really wanted, they would have told me they wanted a faster horse.
Yeah. I've heard that actually. Yeah, that's great. Looking for a personal stylist for your home? Check out Beau Concept. One of their design consultants can help you make the most out of your space. No request is too big or small for living, dining, sleeping, home office, and outdoor spaces. And check out their Southern California showrooms in Orange County and Costa Mesa, and also in Los Angeles and La Brea. For more information, visit Beau Concept at beauconcept.com. Email info@beauconcept.la. No, it's kind of like what Steve Jobs said too. People don't know what they want until you show it to them.
Right.
He invented one of the greatest geniuses of our time, right?
Sure. Apple,
yeah. And they, so it's amazing. I'm always, inspired and sort of rejuvenated by listening and trying to sponge knowledge from people in other industries and what great leaders have done. So
you continue to learn how little you know.
No, totally.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's sort of the best position I find, not necessarily being fearful, but being open that, I used to like to say, I was saying I always want to be the dumbest guy in the room. Because if I'm the dumbest guy, that means I'm surrounded by a lot of smart people, so that's sort of the goal.
Yeah. I get that totally. Yeah.
And be the dumbest guy in the room. Therefore, you're actually the smartest guy because you're surrounding yourself with. So let's get some intel and some insight, because how long have you been in this business?
31 years.
31 years. So one can only imagine how much knowledge you have, acquired in that 31 years. It's beyond, and it's 31 years in this market, South Bay, right?
Yeah, the whole time.
Mm-hmm. So, that's, 3 or 4 real estate cycles, right?
I've been through many ups and downs now, and probably another one around the corner, I'm sure.
So this is what, in my travels, there's on the other side of the coin, people that look at people like you who are, a top performer, and they go, oh, it's, these guys make all this money and it's so easy. What do they do? And it's it's beyond hard work. And
well, there's definitely a misconception about, how people see us, I know, as agents looking from the outside in, especially with the admin of the TV shows and everything else that are going on, and they're making $1 million a deal, and, they're just, sell 4 houses and make $40 billion. But, it's, I think you ask the 80-20 rule, ask the 80% that aren't making it, how hard they work their butts off to make nothing.
Yep.
And, how tough this industry actually is.
Well,
right?
And the churn too. Yeah. The churn, there's over 1 million licensed agents in the U.S.
Over 1 million. Yeah. Getting 1.4 million or something like that.
And that drops in cycles by a big factor.
It does.
So
the next cycle, we'll lose 25%. Yeah.
Yeah.
At least.
So that's why I bring it up, because 31 years in the market, it's invaluable experience and knowledge that you have. So what would be the best advice you would give to a seller today?
To a seller. Okay. Well, first of all, when it comes to selling in a market that's meeting either a leveling off period, a future drop-off period, you certainly have to be price sensitive. Everyone says that, but it's important to understand where to price it and why. Why is it $5 million? How does the buyers perceive it? And what is the potential cost of loss by overpricing it? Are you willing to take that loss? There's certainly, if we hit a downturn, which no one knows for sure, I can't say for sure we're going to hit it, but the amount of money I have seen sellers lose in these downturning markets because they were just stubborn and held on to, I got to get that price. I need $1 million. It doesn't matter what you need. The house is worth what it's worth. So you have to get ahead of that curve that's out there. So that's one thing, is pricing. But every little detail that goes into marketing a home and getting it sold, price is a huge factor, but it comes to preparing the home for sale. It comes to how the home's going to be marketed into the marketplace. What mediums is it going to be out there at? Who's going to be seeing it? How is the greatness of that home going to be conveyed to the marketplace? And will it attract buyers to that home? So you've got to be picky on the broker you pick. You got to be, fastidious on what they're going to do to get the home sold. You have to make sure your home is presented incredibly well, whether it's staging it or whatever it is that you need to do to prepare it for sale, painting it and everything else. So you just can't skip any steps if you want to get it sold or maximize price.
So Ed, do you think the worst mistake a seller could make is overpricing his home? Is that...
There's no question the most costly mistake sellers make is overpricing the home. It's overpricing the home. It's, but again, I look at three things when it comes to selling a home. I tell people this all the time. It's no secret for me, but when homes don't sell, they're blaming a lot of things, but I always go to things that are in your control as a seller. What is not in your control is the marketplace, interest rates, the location your home's in. My agent says it's on a busy street. Well, you're not going to change it. It's out of your control. My agent's saying it's not selling because it's a bad floor plan. You're not going to go change the floor plan, right? What is in your control? Price, marketing, and the showing condition. Your marketing is controlled by your agent. The price is controlled by you and your agent, and the showing condition is controlled by you. Those are three things to focus on.
So best advice you would give a buyer today?
Best advice I give a buyer today, I always say buy knowing you're buying for the long term. If you're looking for a 1-year purchase and you're going to be out of here in a year, yeah, go with caution, extreme caution. But buy based on the fact that, hey, can I afford to keep this home for 10 years no matter what's going on in my life? I might get relocated. I might have a job change. But we are going to see cycles in this marketplace. And, everyone's wondering, will there be a down cycle? Should I wait? Well, the biggest reason we're going to see a downturn in prices is because we have another continual uptick in interest rates. So for those that are buying with financing, there's a high likelihood that buying at a lower price will cost more, which doesn't make sense, right? Because if you can save 10% on your purchase price, but your interest rates go up by 20%, it's actually costing you more per month. And a 20% uptick in interest rates right now is not that much. It's a point.
So I'm curious, if a buyer were to ask you, and I'm sure you get asked this question a variety of ways, but what's the best buy out there? Let's pick on Manhattan Beach. Hey Ed, what's the best buy right now in Manhattan Beach? So what without answering, I'm not asking that question specifically to give me
it's usually anything with my sign on it.
Yeah. So no, what I'm asking is what in your mind, what criteria do you use to answer that question?
100%. Okay, I'm going to tell you what I like to buy. Not that this is the end all be all, but I like to think about properties that are what we would consider in the real estate industry A-plus locations. So an A-plus location, it can be in any part of a city, but it's considered, oh, that's the favorite block, or
The best street.
it's the best street. Everybody wants to live here all the time. And I noticed that in a bad market, A-plus locations still easily sell. In a great market, they make a lot of money. So when it comes down to, you've heard the term location, location, location. It does mean a lot. But for those that make a lot of money in real estate, it's timing, timing, timing. So, the truth is more money's made by buying at the end of a down cycle and it moved up a ton, or because they held on through all of those markets.
Buy and hold. Warren Buffett.
Buy and hold, buy and hold, buy
Yeah.
and hold. Yeah.
So interesting. So that's one of the three, rule of thirds that you mentioned before. One of the fixed things, location of your home. So yeah, that makes total sense. So let's talk a bit about the industry and the market. Again, you've been doing this 31 years. What's the biggest change in the industry you've seen since you started 3 decades ago? There's been no change, right?
Yes and no. There's a lot that has remained the same in the industry, but I would say the biggest change is the movement of information that's available to all consumers, both buyers and sellers, but especially buyers, right? They can have a list of every home that's for sale on their phone in a nanosecond, and they're armed with a lot of information. So you have to, in this industry, know more than what is out there. And, just because you know what homes are for sale and on what street, sometimes that's not enough information. Even in today's market, it can be competitive with great houses when you want to go buy them. And you can lose your dream home because you didn't write the offer the right way. You can put a home in a great location for sale and not sell because you presented it wrong, you priced it wrong. So there's still a lot of great information out there that may not exist online that people think they have, that they have to go speak to experts about and find that out. I've sold homes for 31 years. I still don't know how to draw one. I need an architect to do that.
Speaking of change, so we started Digs in 2010, and I remember the first time I met you and walked through your door, you were a cold call. You were basically 1 degree away from the phone book. I knew who you were before, but I remember I went to one of your brokers and you weren't there. Mm-hmm. Where were you, Ed? And I said, "Where's Ed?" They said, "Oh, he's at the office." So I said, "Oh, I know he's there. I'm going there." So I went to go see you, and I remember how impressed I was just, seeing all these celebrities that you had represented, and John Elway and all these photographs, and it was amazing. But I was thinking to my question, like just how much the industry has changed since we first met 10 years ago, with the disruption in the industry, and you have this whole iBuyer phenomenon and direct to consumer, and all the consolidation.
Right.
Look at Shorewood's no longer here. Even locally, how much this has been disrupted. South Bay Brokers, is in Vista Sotheby's. There was no Strand Hill Christie's. Now there's Strand Hill Christie's.
Sure.
There's Shorewood. It's like that's just on the brokerage level. But in terms of Compass is now a huge going public company and different things. So, what's your view in terms of like that disruption? How is that affecting you personally?
I try to stay ahead of that, to be honest with you. You see today that there is more demand from consumers of what they want in service, what they want in information. And I think in order to provide the proper amount of marketing and information and concierge level of services that are expected today, you do have to team up, honestly. It's hard to run a one-man show anymore and be everywhere that your clients need you to be and provide the marketing that needs to get done for certain special properties and those type of things. So that's a big change in the industry that you see real estate moving towards is, meeting the demands of today's clients.
Where do you see this iBuyer thing going, though, exactly? Like, the direct-to-consumer, do you see that? Of course, the discount commission model is
I don't know. Listen, every time I see these ideas pop up, they seem to fall to the wayside over time. Right now I'm picking up messes left by these bloody brick companies or whatever they're called out there, and had listings that are just the sellers are frustrated and failing, and the buyer process is horrible. So I don't know. Does someone figure out a new way of doing it that really works and is effective? I haven't seen it yet. I see a lot of flaws in the process out there. I see a lot of efficiencies out there that can be improved, though. Just from the lending process that seems to take forever, and the escrow process and everything else that we deal with. I mean, why do you need 30 days to buy a house? Why can't you buy it in 3 days, right?
Yeah, that's where technology...
Why does it take 4 hours to buy a car? Why can't I just go in and buy it in 14 minutes, right?
Yeah.
So there's always efficiencies, I think, that can be improved. I'm open to them. I'm ready for them. I just don't think I've seen it on the horizon, the solution yet.
All right, so let's close out with some things people might not necessarily know about you, Ed.
Mm-hmm.
What's your favorite sport?
I love football, but I am from Cleveland. It's been a challenge. We have a good year this year. Fun to watch Baker Mayfield. But I've learned to love hockey, mainly because these guys are here. They're in town. Many of them become clients and friends. And to be able to watch a sporting team when you have somewhat of a personal relationship with somebody that's out there on the court or on the ice is fun. So that has become really an enjoyable sport. But I mean, now it's October, right? Now we got Dodger baseball, which is
too
exciting.
much. We got college football, we got football, we got NBA. Yeah,
we got Lakers starting
and
with
hockey. Yeah,
LeBron, and I don't know. It's exciting.
This is the best
exciting time. Yeah.
So I know you like to cook.
I love to cook. It's kind of my escape, right?
What's your favorite thing to cook?
I like cooking without a recipe. I like looking in the fridge and seeing what I have and seeing what I can, create from what ingredients I have. It's my favorite thing to do.
So very creative.
Yeah.
Make it up as you go along.
A little bit. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't.
So what's your favorite, and you talk about change in the industry, like how much has Manhattan Beach changed in the last 30 years? I mean, or South Bay, all these beach cities, it's crazy, right?
Manhattan Beach has dramatically changed. It's gone from a little beach town to, attracting, very successful business people of all kinds. But it still maintains that great neighborhood, small town feel. That's the greatest thing about Manhattan Beach, if we speak about that specifically. You still got hometown fair and the lighting of the fireworks, and the community comes out and they engage with each other, and it's a beautiful thing to watch, and it's hard to find that in Los Angeles. It really is.
What's your favorite place to hang, like in the South Bay or in Manhattan? Where do you hang in Manhattan?
I mean,
mostly?
Today there's no question, as young as I still am, it's with my grandkids. I have 2 daughters who I love spending time with, and one of them's got 2 grandkids now, and it's such a pleasure to spend time with them and see them smile, and as soon as they stop, I give them back.
Yeah. Alrighty.
Warren, I know you've been drilling me with questions, but I think to close out, I'd like to ask you a question since I've got the mic.
Right. Please do.
Do you see any industry changes that have been dramatic the last, 5 or 8 years, however long Diggs has been around, that you think is going to affect us as brokers?
That's a great question, and boy, could I go on and on. As always said since day one when we met, we're in this together. Like, we exist as a media marketing company for you, for the 80-20, for the 20. So as you go, we go, and so I have a very acute focus on what's happening, outside of the South Bay and what's happening with the Zillows and the Compasses and, all the technology. And what always brings me back to the focal point is real estate is local. these homes are rooted here. They're, the community is rooted here. The schools are rooted here. And, these big national concerns and you can't really get into that hyper local and understand it and be that expert.
Right.
So this is the sort of the moat around the castle, if you will, that, it's like the last mile with fiber, right?
Yeah.
What was the hardest part when fiber?
Right.
Like the last mile?
Yeah.
Hyperlocal is the last mile. And it's a tough last mile. So
That's a very good point.
and I think to displace that, yes, we're going to get disrupted, and yes, there's evolution and technology. It's just a matter of, it's going to happen, and it's not good or bad. It's evolution.
No, I'm going to give you a good example of that because I went to New York City recently, and we happened to, with Christie's International Real Estate, we were able to tour 4 $35 million properties. One was an absolute fixer-upper. The other one was a medium fixer-upper. One was beautiful, and then one was like a castle. But to be honest with you, I couldn't tell you, without talking to someone who was hyper-local, if it was worth 35 or 25 or 38. So I think you bring up a good, strong point. Having that really base of knowledge for every block and every angle a home can sit is critically important.
And that's why we always preach, Ed, and you've heard this from me a million times. It's like, if you want to be around forever as a top performer and you want to outlast the disruption and be here, be the last man standing, you've got to build a local brand. You got to have a brand that's rooted in this community, centered around the real estate conversation. So you have your own moat and your reputation precedes you, and that's something that is built to last, and if you continue to work on that, and this is why, brand has been very passé. It's been sort of thrown out 10 years ago brands are meaningless now, and now the whole brand thing is coming full circle, and all the experts in the market,
Right.
all the branding is branding, it's branding, and because we live in a no trust world now with fake news and internet, and we live in a content surplus, and trust has always been the most important ingredient into relationships.
Sure.
And relationships are everything. So without trust and relationship, forget it. And you put local around that, you got it. So
Well, that being said, I've enjoyed our partnership together over the years and the fresh thoughts and ideas that you continue to bring to the table and help me build our brand for our customers. And it's been a pleasure working with you, and I look forward to a continued successful relationship.
Likewise, Ed, and thank you for being a partner, and always a pleasure to see you and to glean insight into the industry, and so keep it up. And okay, so give us your closing thoughts, Ed.
My closing thought is there isn't one answer for everybody. It doesn't matter what the market's doing out there. It doesn't mean that it is dictating what you should do as a buyer or seller. You have to look at your individual situation. How long are you going to live in a home? What kind of home do you need? Why are you buying a home? Are you in a terrible rental situation? Don't ever want to rent again. Why are you selling a home? Is it going to put you in a great stress relief situation by selling your house? Or are you leaving money on the table and you have the luxury of not wanting to leave money on the table and you want to keep it for another 5 or 10 years? You're okay with that. This market does not dictate exactly what to do. Know your personal situation. Sit down with your financial planner. Talk to your lender. Talk to your spouse. And discuss everything that's important before making a decision, and turn down the noise that's out there on the radio and the TV and the papers, and look at yourself individually, ask smart questions, then make a decision.
That's great. All right, on that note, I think that's terrific, and I think hopefully we've provided some value to the audience, and we look forward to doing it again soon. And thanks again, Ed, for joining us.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks, Warren.
And that wraps up this episode. Thank you for tuning in, and we hope you found some value. Please share, subscribe, and leave a review. Find us on iTunes and your favorite podcast provider. Until next time. Thank you to our sponsor, Bow Concept.